I attempted a Pokemon Hardcore Nuzlocke, a Pokemon Silver version using only flying type Pokemon. The rules are as follows. Any Pokemon that faints is considered dead and can no longer be used. Second, the player must only catch the first flying wild Pokemon encounter in each area and none else. If the first wild Pokemon encountered faints or flees, there are no second chances. Third, no items in battle or overleveling. Fourth, battles must be conducted on set mode, not switch mode. Fifth, only flying type Pokemon may be used in battle. There are a ton of flying type Pokemon in this game, so we will have a lot of options to choose from as we go. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel for future videos and let me know in the comments what runs you would like to see in the future. First off, we have to decide a Pokemon for our rival, and the only real advantage we'd have is if he had Chikorita, because obviously grass versus flying wouldn't mix well, so we give him Cyndaquil. We have to start with a non-flying type, but we're going to be able to get one very soon. We have a ton of encounters early in the game, so let's run through them quickly. We head over to Route 29 and capture a Pidgey, naming it Hitsu after a recent Twitch follower. I do many of these challenges live, so check me out over there to be a part of a run yourself. Next, we have access to the bottom of Route 46, where we encounter and capture a Spearow. Then we grab a Hoothoot on Route 30 and a Zubat in Dark Cave. After running through the Bellsprout Tower, plant versus bird, guess how that went? It's Faulkner time. This is the first gym leader in the game. He leads Pidgey and we send out our Hoothoot. After a growl, we trade tackles and knock out his Pidgey pretty easily. Next is the infamous level 9 Pidgeotto. How is that thing evolved at level 9? I don't know. I think he's cheating, but that's okay. We can beat it. After getting off 2 growls to lower his attack, with a no physical special split in Gen 2, this severely hinders his ability to do damage, we swap into Swebby the Spearow. After a peck doing minimal damage, I go with Leer to soften him up. A couple of pecks knock him into yellow health, and we swap into our own Pidgey, taking a couple of gusts and finishing him off with one of our own, earning us the first badge. Faulkner didn't show us a single new Generation 2 flying Pokemon, so I'll take that upon myself to show you guys all the flying types this game has to offer. Right after winning this fight, Professor Elm's aid gives us the Togepi egg, which we run around with until it hatches. We won't be able to use this right away, as it's not a flying type until it evolves into Togetic. Now there's a brief moment with nothing. You thought? We found a shiny Mareep immediately after leaving Violet City. Unfortunately, it's not a flying type, so no shiny claws today. I'm sure we won't find another one in this run, so no big deal. But on the way to Union Cave, we have a scary double crit scare from Birdkeeper Peter's Spearow, surviving on 4 HP, not once, but twice. This sort of stressful encounter can only be fixed with a light jog, or an intense run for 30 straight minutes. Oh look, Togepi is evolving into Togetic. What a coincidence. Just outside the cave though, we catch a Hoppip. Not usually a great Pokemon, but its grass typing will make it neutral to electric, a much needed addition to our very weak to electric team. Turns out the scary Union Cave hikers actually decided to hang out outside of the cave, and thinking that my Pokemon were high enough level, I willingly battled him. He led a Geodude which baited me with 2 tackles, making me think it didn't have a rock move. Then, with low HP, he had a 90% rock throw at -3 accuracy to KO our Spearow. RIP, and we still aren't out of this. Fortunately, Geodude finally misses and we finish him off with Pidgey, as well as his Machop. I never should have fought that guy. Now we take out our rage on Bugsy. Very interesting fight. Stab, super effective Gust is a good move. That is all you need to know. You didn't actually think this fight was going to be interesting, did you? Now we take on our rival for the first time with actual flying types, because the first time we took him on, you know, it was starter versus starter. I didn't even show that because there was no flying types involved. He leads with Ghastly, which is only level 12. We hit him with a couple of bites as he misses both attacks, taking it out. He follows with his own Zubat, which we get to flinch a couple of times before getting confused by his Supersonic. We swap into Pidgeotto and finish him with Quick Attack. His final Pokemon is Quilava, which we were able to 1v1 with Pidgeotto, winning the fight. That was pretty easy. Now we make our way to Goldenrod City, where we had back-to-back scary encounters with a roll-outing Marill that nearly took out multiple Pokemon and a Thundershocking Pikachu. While grinding for the next gym after, we encounter another shiny! 2 in 1 run already, and we're not even to the 3rd gym leader. This is insane. And it's also another pink one? This is kind of weird. Maybe it's in honor of Barbie? I don't know. Barbie movie? Anybody watch that? Enough of the sparkly Pokemon. It's time to take on Whitney, the most dreaded gym leader in all of Johto. And it gets even worse when her Milk Tank knows roll out a rock move. We lead off with Skiploom's Sleep Powder, and as she sleeps, we headbutt her Clefairy to death. That's a good start. Out comes Milk Tank, and it immediately hits us with a rollout. This rock move builds up every single turn and can easily wipe our entire team if we don't put this thing to sleep. Oh good, we missed. No big deal, we can take one more rollout and then put it to sleep this turn. Well, it was a good run, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more wipes. Okay, but seriously, now we have to decide who we're willing to sacrifice to this reverberating, cream-filled Longhorn. After much consideration, I landed on Noctowl. I think it's the most expendable of our Pokemon at the moment, unfortunately. It does a great job tanking rollout turn 3 and 4, leaving us with only one more rollout turn to deal with until it resets its power. Our final sacrifice is Pidgeotto, falling easily to a 5th turn rollout, unfortunately. Then I send out Togetic, which is instantly attracted to Miltank's assets. Come on, Togetic, look away! You're better than this! Boom! Togetic, completely oblivious to those Mega Milkers, fights through Attract and lands a Charm, lowering Miltank's attack significantly. We then pivot to Gyarados, taking back-to-back rollouts and barely touching Miltank with a return. Fortunately, it misses a 3rd turn of rollout, which could have ended us. We landed a critical return, get another rollout miss, fight through a Milk Drink, and barely survive, winning the fight. That could have gone a lot better, but honestly, we are lucky to have made it out alive. Rip to our Noctowl and Pidgeotto. Next, we head up to Route 35 and grab the 1% encounter, Yanma. Unfortunately, Yanmega is not yet in the game, so this Pokemon will probably not help us much in this run, but we want to have it just in case. Then we grab a Scyther from the bug catching contest. This guy's a stud, and he will probably be very useful later in the run. After catching the new Pokemon up to speed, it's time to take on Sudowoodo. And I ran away. You think I'm gonna let this thing throw rocks at my birds? Think again. Now we have access to Ekritique, where we can take on the Kimono Girls and get the HM for Surf. This finally gives us access to a water move to deal with those pesky rock types. Let's test it out against our rival in Burn Tower. I hit his Haunter with a bite and he KOs himself with Curse. He goes into Magnemite, so we pivot into Skiploom and he hits the 55% Supersonic. Instead of risking the confusion hit, I swap into Togetic and take a Sonic Boom, then go back into Skiploom only to be hit by another 55% accurate Supersonic. This time I swap to Scyther to avoid a Thundershock crit potentially KOing Togetic, and he misses with Sonic Boom. I hit for decent damage with Headbutt, but take a Thundershock in return that also paralyzes. I swap back to Skiploom, take a Thundershock, then hit it with Sleep Powder and finish it with a few Headbutts. Finally, we take out his last 2 Pokemon with a combo of our newly acquired HM Surf and the best normal move in the game, Return. Phew! Magnemite is a tough matchup for our team, between the combo of resisting most of our attacks with Steel and being super effective with Stab electric attacks. Good thing there aren't any of those in a future gym. Now we have another tough fight, Morty. A lot of our moves don't hit his Pokemon, and that Gengar could be a run killer. I lead with our newly evolved Crobat, knocking out his first Ghastly with his super effective Bite. A couple of bites also take out his next Haunter, but not without taking a Nightshade in return. Now it's time for the ace Pokemon, Gengar. Crobat is speedy, so he sneaks in a Confused Ray before it can hit us with Hypnosis, and it hits itself in confusion. A bite hits for significant damage, but Gengar hits us with a deadly Hypnosis. Fortunately, we planned for this and have a Mitt Berry equipped, waking us up immediately and allowing us to hit with another bite and KO. He just has 1 Haunter left, which falls to 2 bites, flinching it for good measure. So much for a tough gym, I guess Crobat is just that good. After beating Morty, we are able to surf outside the battle. This gives us access to a new encounter, Natu. Its Psychic Flying typing will give us a special attacker to help balance out our team, if he hadn't used Teleport and ran away. And it would have been a great Pokemon for the next gym leader, Chuck. Screw you, Natu! And speaking of Chuck, he's here. Crobat is back again, one-hit KOing Primeape with Wing Attack. His Poliwrath comes out and Crobat smacks it with his wings again, but it gets put to sleep in return. But Chuck? Have you ever heard of this little thing called a Mint Berry? Oh, they aren't called that anymore? Well, let me enlighten you. Crobat is awake and this fight is over. That couldn't have been easier, but I guess this is to be expected. I quickly take out the red Gyarados to get the red scale and continue the storyline. The red scale can be traded to Mr. Pokemon for the EXP share, which can help level up some of our harder to train Pokemon. On my way to make this trade, I run into another shiny. I have literally never encountered a shiny live on Twitch, and the first time I record something off stream, I encountered 3 of them in a single run. Unreal! Oh, and should I mention this is actually a flying Pokemon, and Shiny Claws could be implemented here if my own Hoot Hoot Noctowl had been alive to be replaced by the shiny. Unfortunately, ours was knocked out by that cursed Milk Tank, so this is no longer usable either. Rocket Hideout was uneventful as always, though the electrodes that no self-destruct were a little scary. Fortunately, Julia's Sleep Powder did not miss, and we made quick work of them. Oh, and I forgot Ladybuzz in this game, so we head back to Route 37 and catch one. Ledian can be a useful screen Pokemon in some important fights. Price is the next gym leader, and he has one of the tougher type matchups against our team, with Gyarados being the only neutral Pokemon against his ice type attacks. I lead with our newly acquired Ledian, starting with a Light Screen, taking an Icy Wind, and swapping into Gyarados, who finishes Seal with a couple of strengths. He sends out his Dugong, which trade hits with Gyarados until our Light Screen fades. We bring Ledian back out, setting up a second Light Screen, which allows us to safely get Gyarados back out without taking too much damage. Then we are able to deal with it pretty quickly. Finally, his Ace Piloswine comes out, which we simply surf to death. Ledian was pretty useful that fight, but I think Gyarados could have probably swept that fight on his own. The end of the gym leader boss rush is Jasmine, who has those Magnemites we alluded to earlier. I lead with Ledian and set up a Light Screen, taking significant damage from a Thunderbolt. I swap into Jumpluff, our only Pokemon that is neutral to electric, electric and get hit with the Thunder Wave, which we planned for. Unfortunately, our 75% accurate Sleep Powder misses and I get paralyzed the next turn anyway. After fighting through several turns of paralysis, I put it to sleep and Leech Seed it. It takes several more turns of Headbutt, Paralysis, and Leech Seed, but I finally finished the first Magnemite. Jasmine then brings out Steelix, which forces us to switch to Togetic, who eats an Iron Tail for nearly half damage. We had to risk a critical hit in order to charm its attack down, and fortunately that crit didn't happen. Then I brought out Gyarados, one-shotting the Steelix with Surf. If I had known it would one-shot, I probably would have avoided that risky business with Togetic. Now we have to deal with the last Magnemite, which gets us dangerously low on a Thunderbolt. But we were able to hit a Sleep Powder through Paralysis, allowing us to synthesis our health back up, hit the Magnemite with a Leech Seed, and finally finish it off with a bunch of Headbutts. I think that last Magnemite stayed asleep for the max amount of turns, or we might have been in serious trouble. Next is the Rocket storyline, which for the most part is a breeze, except for the trainers who enjoy self-destructing Pokemon. And speaking of self-destructing Pokemon, the pseudo-director on the 5th floor of the radio tower is rocking 5 coughing and a wheezing that all have the ability to explode. I'm really scared of this guy because a crit self-destruct would kill any of our Pokemon. Fortunately, Farfetch'd knows Swords Dance, and setting up 2 of those allows us to sweep through all 6 Pokemon without any scares. In the underground, we have to face our rival again. His team still isn't great, and with Magnemite being the only real concern, it's a pretty easy fight. Next we head to Ice Path, where we can catch our next encounter, Delibird. While this is a pretty awful Pokemon, it does have Ice typing, which could be useful in the next gym, which is filled with dragons. After making our way through Ice Path and catching the Delibird, we arrive in Blackthorn City and head south to get our final Johto encounter, Skarmory. This thing was a beast to capture, but after several Sleep Powders and lowering its HP to red, a 15th Great Ball finally gets us the Steel Bird. Our final Johto gym leader is Claire, who claims to be able to hold up against the Elite Four, but I doubt it. I lead with the Dancing Bird, Swords Dancing and taking a Thunder Wave, which is healed by a Hellberry. Then 3 straight returns knocks out each of her Dragonairs. 1, 2, 3. Finally, her Kingdra outspeeds and hits hard with Surf, but we return the favor by nearly taking it out with a return. Expecting a Hyper Potion, I take the free swap into Jumpluff, then Seed and Sleep Powder. I swap to Gyarados, hoping to finish the Kingdra while it's asleep, but Claire goes for the full heal strategy to wake it up, but I'm able to 1v1 the Kingdra, taking a Hyper Beam and eventually outlasting it while it falls to Leech Seed damage after a Strength miss. Turns out Dancing Birds and Flying Water Snakes are better than Dragons, Claire. I said previously that Skarmory was our last Johto encounter, but technically we can catch a Dratini in Dragon's Den, but we won't be able to use it until it evolves into Dragonite and becomes a flying type at level 55. This thing will not get in the ball. Oh, it can flee? I guess we're not getting a Dragonite this run. However, we do have access to a Kanto encounter on the routes leading up to the Elite Four. So we grab a Doduo, our last flying normal type of the run. And now our last obstacle before we face the Elite Four is the final rival battle. He now has 6 Pokemon, leading with Sneasel, which would be scary due to it being an Ice-type Pokemon, but it knows 0 Ice moves. And we send out our Dancing Bird, taking nearly 0 damage as we set up a Swords Dance and crush it with Return. I could have easily set up triple Swords Dance here, but expecting Magneton, I figured even a max attack hit might not KO. Once the Magneton hit the field, I swapped into Jumpluff, taking a Thunder Wave, which we recover from due to a held berry. Then I went for the Jumpluff special, Sleep Powder, Leech Seed, and Return, slowly chipping away the health until we knock it out without taking any damage. After that, our rival sends out Golbat, which we counter with our higher level, more evolved Crobat, taking a wing attack and dealing one of our own before getting hit with a Confuse Ray and causing us to swap into Togetic, taking a double wing attack but finishes it with Return. Next is Haunter, and fearing a Mean Look Curse on a Pokemon that we can't hit, I go into Gyarados and take a Confuse Ray. I swap again, not wanting to deal with confusion, and Crobat one-shots it. Kadabra comes out, and though Bite could possibly KO due to our weakness to Psychic, I go to Gyarados, who's also perfect for the final Pokemon Typhlosion afterward. He makes quick work of both Kadabra and Typhlosion, winning the fight. Can't say I'm gonna miss seeing you, buddy. After some grinding the team, it's time to take on the Elite Four. Our team consists of Scyther, Skarmory, Gyarados, Crobat, Togetic, and Jumpluff. Will we lose any Pokemon during the Elite Four, or will we sweep it? Let me know in the comments. Our first challenge is Psychic Member Will. His levels are pretty low compared to the level cap of the Elite Four's Ace, Karen, so this shouldn't be too hard. But I have said that before in the ground-only run, and we all know what happened there. If you don't know what happened there, that means you didn't watch the run and therefore are not in on the reference and are missing out on really cool stuff, so go watch that video to avoid the tragedy that is not knowing what happened there. Will leaves off with Xatu. Arg! Flashbacks! Natu! Why did you fly away? I start dancing with Scyther, take a Confuse Ray, and heal with a Bitter Berry. At +2 attack and several levels higher, I feel pretty confident that a Return can plow through his team, so I start by one-shotting Xatu, then Jinx, then his other Xatu, Executor, and Slowbro. Oh, he survived. Okay, he didn't do anything. We win. Okay, that went better than the ground run. Now for Koga. He leads Ariados, who can't touch Scyther, allowing us to max attack with Swords Dance. And I taught him Swift to avoid any double team shenanigans, and we one-shot Ariados. Then Crobat, Venomoth with Return, the Fortress with Wing Attack, and finally, the Muck with Return. Scyther's a pretty good Pokemon. Huh. Now we face Bruno, which should be easy in theory, but he does have Rock-type Onix and a Rock-sliding Machamp. Hopefully we can run through these guys just as easily as the other two. He starts off with the wimpy Hitmontop, Poor guy never got any good moves in Gen 2, and we are able to once again max out our attack with Swords Dance, one-shotting with Return. He follows with Onix, a Pokemon I am actually worried about due to the type resistance, massive defense, and quad effective stab rock type moves. I hit him with Return, and oh no, it leaves him with 1 HP. He follows with a Rock Slide, the worst possible move for us, a 450 base power due to being quad effective and stab, but somehow, even after having taken damage, it does not KO us? Is Rock not super effective against Bug in this generation, or is Onix attack just that bad? We had no business surviving that, but here we are. From there, I knock it out with another Return, wonder if Hitmonchan's Mach Punch will do enough to us, then decide that since we have quad resistance to fighting type, it will barely touch us, so we KO it, Machamp, and Hitmonlee with Return. Phew, that was way too close. Thank you, Pokemon developers, for making Onix the worst attacking Pokemon in the history of all the games. Finally, we reach the Elite Four's ace, Karen, the Dark-type trainer. Her name is Karen, and her lead Pokemon, Umbreon, does have Sand Attack, which is pretty annoying, so it fits her name well. But this is another reason I taught Scyther Swift. She doesn't even bother to use it though, wasting time with Feint Attack and Mean Look. Thanks, I would love to stay in and set up 3 Swords Dances. Maybe Umbreon just likes to dance? Finally, on turn 3, she uses a Confuse Ray, but it's too late now. Our Bitterberry procs, and we are maxed attack, KOing Umbreon and Houndoom with Return, Gengar with Wing Attack, Murkrow with Return, and finally, Vileplume with a Wing Attack. Another easy fight after that scare from Bruno. Now for the Elite Four's final challenge, Lance the Dragon Master. What will our strategy be? How about Swords Dance! His lead Gyarados spends 3 turns using Rain Dance and Hyper Beam as we max out attack again. Then we KO it, his first Dragonite, his second Dragonite, Aerodactyl, Charizard, and finally his level 50 Dragonite with Return. Swords Dance is an extremely broken move in these fights, because almost every lead Pokemon can't do anything to the user if you have the proper berries held. But this isn't the end. We may have beat the champion, but in Silver you can visit Kanto and face their 8 gym leaders as well. After riding SS Aqua to Kanto, I quickly head to Route 7 and catch a Murkrow, our only dark type of the run. This Pokemon is pretty pathetic in most ways. Put your guesses in the comments, will we even touch this Pokemon in this run? Then we make our way to Route 14 to catch a Chansey. Chansey? That's not a flying type. I know, but there is a lady in the same patch of grass that will trade you an Aerodactyl for the Chansey you caught. This is an awesome addition because we can use the Earthquake TM that we found in Victory Road, finally giving us some electric coverage. This will be our final encounter of the run unless we were to go grab Lugia, which we just aren't going to do. Having a legendary Pokemon would be fun, but it would make the run a bit too easy. Though I will say Lugia is my favorite Pokemon and a big reason why I loved Silver version as a kid. Our first Kanto Gym challenge is against Janine, who has taken her father Koga's place in the Poison Gym in Fuchsia City. But she might want to work on her levels because her ace is level 39? Now's a good time to mention that Kanto level caps go backward in levels, so the entire level cap is based on blue in order to not have to, you know, save Pokemon for like Kanto and like use only a couple of them, because a ton of Nuzlocks would not be possible if that was a requirement. So the ace for Kanto is level 58. Based on blue, the final gym leader's ace. So our cap for the entire region is 58, making this fight basically a foregone conclusion. One funny thing to note during the fight is that we now have a Steel type, so all of our Pokemon repeatedly blowing up does basically nothing against us. Well done, Skarmory. After this, I run through the Kanto storyline to gain access to the rest of the map, then head over to Erica, the Grass-type gym leader's gym. This is a flying-type run, so this shouldn't be too hard. I realized when I got to her that I had forgotten a Mint Berry, but I was too lazy to go back and grab one and got insta-punished when I did not one-hit KO Tangela and got hit with Sleep Powder. But it can't do any damage to us, so I wake up after a few turns and sweep the rest of her team with super effective wing attacks. Even when I got lazy and put it to sleep, the type advantage was just too much for her to handle. Misty time. 2 of her Pokemon know Ice Beam, so Gyarados and Skarmory will be important here due to them being the only neutral Pokemon I have against Ice type. I lead with Jumpluff, Giga draining her Golduck a couple of times until it faints, taking minimal damage in the process. She follows with Gyarados, and I'm 4 times weak to Ice, so I switch to Gyarados, who is able to 1v1 it easily because of 2 Blizzard misses. She goes into Quagsire, who just uses Amnesia as we crush it mercilessly. Finally, she sends out her ace Starmie, so I switch to Skarmory, taking a neutral Ice Beam, stalling it a bit with Protect and Leftovers, but taking massive damage from a Surf before flying, then giving her the chance to use Recover. I swap to Gyarados, thinking I can deal more damage, and it takes her out easily. Skarmory is a great tank physically, but those special moves do a number on it. And speaking of special moves, it's time to visit Miss Special Attack herself, Sabrina. We have a very special plan for this one. Can you guess what it is? How about that useless Pokemon, Murkrow? Her Pokemon literally have 2 moves that can hit our Dark Bird, one being Swift on Espeon, and the second being Future Sight on Alakazam. Even the Sand attacks from Espeon don't bother us, with a never-missing Stab, super effective Feint Attack in our arsenal. This allows us to run through her team with ease, acquiring the 4th Kanto badge and the 12th overall. This leaves us us with only 5 more big fights to win the game. It is finally time to take on Surge, and I put this one off due to our weakness to Electric, waiting to train Aerodactyl up to a higher level. We lead Aero against his Raichu, and thanks to our high speed and attack stat, Aero was able to one-shot Raichu, Magneton, Electabuzz, and both of his Electrodes with 5 straight Earthquakes. Without Aerodactyl, that would have been a much tougher fight. I'm having deja vu because nearly the exact same scenario happens against Blaine. We lead with Aero and hit 3 straight Earthquakes on his Magcargo, Magmar, and Rapidash to KO and win the fight. I do not understand why some of the gym leaders only have 3 Pokemon and or are missing their ace from the original games. Why doesn't he have Arcanine? I guess they gave it to Blue later, but still, they could both have Arcanine. It's okay to have repeat Pokemon. We quickly head over to face Brock, and at this point, our Gyarados has a solid level advantage over his Pokemon, making this fight a pretty standard one. Hitting his Pokemon repeatedly with Surf, even the neutral ones, is enough to KO all 5 of them and get us the 17th badge of the run. Our final gym battle is against Blue, the antagonist from the original Red and Blue games. He has a diverse team with similar levels, so this one might be difficult. He starts with a Pidgeot, while I send out our new favorite Pokemon, Aero. I take out the Pidgeot with back-to-back Ancient Powers, taking only a few points of damage from its wing attack. He brings out Rhydon, and I think about using Earthquake, but considering its high defense, I decide against it and swap into Skarmory to tank a Rock Slide. Using alternating Protect and Steel Wing turns to maximize leftover recovery, I eventually take it out without taking too much net damage. Blue then sends out his intimidating Arcanine. Not intimidating in terms of the ability, but intimidating because it's a very good Pokemon. So I go into Gyarados, taking a Flamethrower and an extreme speed before one-hit KOing with a critical Surf. I'm not sure if that crit mattered, but I'll take it. He follows with Alakazam, but he didn't know about our secret weapon, Murkrow. Not only does our secret weapon avoid any psychic attacks this time, but it doesn't even know Future Sight, therefore getting completely walled by our pathetic bird with a hat. We still aren't out of this yet because he still has Gyarados. I bring out my own to contest it, and he sets up with a Rain Dance. Stupidly, I swap into Skarmory thinking I can get cute and resist the beam, but he just goes for rain-boosted Hydro Pump, taking about 2/3 HP. I then have to switch back into Gyarados, putting myself in a worse position than before, but resisting a Hydro Pump for minimal damage and recovering the Gold Berry to return to almost the same HP. I finally use Return, what I should have done a few turns ago, taking a Wimpy Twister and a scary Hyper Beam, but survive and finish him off with 2 more returns. He sends out his last Pokemon, Executor, and I hard counter with Crobat, which 4 times resists his grass moves. Back-to-back wing attacks are enough to end the fight, winning us the 16th and final badge of the game. This fight went pretty well, outside of me trying to get my Gyarados killed for no reason. Now we only have one more job, and that is to defeat Trainer Red atop Mount Silver. This is a legendary trainer because he has some of the highest level Pokemon ever in a Pokemon game, with his Pikachu all the way up at level 81. He leads with that level 81 Pikachu, and I send out Aero. I think you know where this is going. Oops, looks like that Pikachu never learned to fly. He brings out Blastoise and we swap into Gyarados as he sets up Rain Dance. After a few turns of tanking a Whirlpool and a Blizzard, we are able to take him out. He follows with Espeon, and can you guess who we bring out next? Mr. Ad himself, Murkrow. Hilariously again, our Murkrow is able to wall the Espeon, tanking her Swift and killing it with back-to-back feint attacks. I can't believe how useful this Pokemon has been in so many big fights. Next is Snorlax, and we bring out our Steel type, high defense, Bird. After setting up a Toxic, Protecting, Flying, and getting paralyzed by his Body Slam, I should have equipped a Berry. Oops. He uses Rest to fully heal and clear the poison. How did I forget about Rest? Looks like this might go on for a while. After an insanely long back and forth where I gave up on using Toxic and just started using Steel Wing and Protect, I finally managed to PP stall his Rest move, and I finally finished him with Steel Wing. Sheesh, that was annoying, but we weren't in any real danger. He goes into Charizard, and we have to go back to Gyarados, tanking a Flamethrower and a Wing attack before KOing with Double Surf. His last Pokemon and our final Pokemon of the game is Venusaur, which we hard counter with Crobat. We tank 1 Solar Beam and we hit back-to-back wing attacks, winning us the fight and the Nuzlocke. Well, that was an extremely fun run. I didn't quite realize the awesome type diversity we could get in this game. It made for a fun Nuzlocke experience, and it was challenging at times as well. If you guys made it all the way through the video, consider subscribing for more runs in the future, and don't hesitate to suggest runs that you would like to see on the channel. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys next time.